All right. So we've got Eric in Tampa. We've got Katerina in Texas. We've got others on Facebook Live joining us now. Welcome, everybody. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take you guys through some lighting critiques now. And I'm going to do a few different, I'm actually going to have it in like 3 different programs. So bear with me. I've got Katerina, who gave a little bit animation test that she's been working on for a while that I absolutely love, but I wanted to give some feedback on that. Will, you did a demo reel submission, so I wanted to go through your demo reel. There were a couple others. There's one that I wanted to do in Photoshop just because I wanted to do a little mock-up, and then I wanted to jump over to my iPad to give some other notes. So without much further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And just hop over there. And what I'm going to, hopefully you guys can see this. Let me just pull out of this. You know what? I'm always nervous that I'm not going to be able, that you guys aren't actually going to be able to see my screen. So I'm just going to do the entire desktop and you guys will see everything I got going on. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to do was just kind of show you all some, we've got some cool stuff going on in the lighting student page. So this is, Hisham is doing, was matching this animated scene with a shot from the post. It's kind of like the rough reference right off the bat. And you can see some progress here and you can see him kind of building up and we're working towards that. So just so everyone knows, if you're not familiar with the Academy of Animated Art, we are also work with Anim School. And so some of their students will hop over and give us some of their animated projects to use. And we'll allow our students to work with them and download all the assets. So you already have like a well animated scene that you can work with to put on your reel. So this is something that Hisham's working on, and you can see all the different iterations that we're going through. But we're really coming close here with this, and I think we're getting into a good spot. Additionally, we've got Alessandro is working on this animated short. And one of the things that we really like about our program and the Academy of Animated Art is we'll have, we have industry professionals from all over the place. So Francesco hopped in and gave some feedback here. Francesco is a lighter at DreamWorks, and he's actually a good friend, and we are going to be interviewing him on Wednesday. So next Wednesday, he should be joining us, and we'll be able to take a look at that. And then, let's see, additionally, over here. Okay, so let me hop in and I want to kind of go through, we've got Will's demo reel here. And, but first, Katerina, you're here. So I want to make sure to get you a feedback on yours as well. Oh, let me log in here real quick. Go ahead and stop sharing my screen here for just a moment while I log in so I don't share super passwords with anybody. I mean, not that you would see anything. I am so bad with passwords that you'd probably not even see it because I would forget it constantly. Okay, sharing my screen again. All right, so Katerina, overall, I really love this project. I think that the overall shaping on her is looking really good. I think she's setting pretty well into the space. But the one thing that I like most about this is the shaping that you're getting on the umbrella itself. So if you look, because umbrellas are really tricky. You think of them as being very simple objects, but they're actually very tough. And you're doing a really good job of getting good shaping coming across here and then light coming down this way on the outside of it. But you're also getting this really nice translucency coming in here. And then it's creating shaping across here and then around the back of her here. That's probably my favorite part. And then inside the umbrella, you're getting some darkening here from this, from the shadowing, and then coming down here. It just all feels very natural on the umbrella itself. The woman also feels very good, but here is going to be my advice for like taking it a step further. And that's, if you look at this background, like if you look back here, you can see that there's a lot of super low level warm light. There's light bouncing off from street lamps. There's headlights that are refracting around. So I think we can actually sneak some more warm light up in on her. And if this was another, if this wasn't a character, I may not push that. but this is a character, and she looks like she's likable, and we want to root for her. So I would really like to see us go ahead and put some more warmth on her and really kind of warm her up a little bit so we can kind of feel that connection. But her shaping overall is really nice. I would just like to see maybe just like a little bit of warmth kind of coming up into there. And then additionally, there's something else I noticed as I was going through this. Let's see if I can find it right here. Do you see like watch her pupils? Something kind of passes by and it gets a little bit strange. And it was just like in that flash that I felt that she looked like she stopped being a person and started being a 3D model. And that's something we don't necessarily want. Small one there. And then the only other thing that I would do, and it depends on how much you want to rework this. So the thing is that she reacts and we don't see what she's reacting to. I'm guessing it's like some lightning or thunder. So I would maybe add a little flash of light in there, and then you can add it to the background as well. Just something for her to react to visually, because right now she's kind of ducking for no reason, or it's in the audio. But I would just like to see like a crack of light there and then have her duck down. I thought that would be kind of fun, but just something to add to it there. So if you have any questions, let me know. You can add them to the chat window, and I will take a look in here throughout this presentation, as you guys can see. But yeah, and now I want to move on into Will's demo reel. And the way I'm going to approach this is because I know that most of you probably haven't seen this yet. He posted it to the community, but if you haven't, I just kind of want to take you through and just do like a dry run at it. And just as if like I am somebody in a demo reel review, and what my very first reaction to be to this stuff. So I like took my notes when I watched it the first time and just kind of what it would be. And Will, this isn't, any indication of your work at all. This is the first time you're showing it, and I appreciate what you've done. But this is just like my honest approach so that you guys can all build from here. So Will, first off, this looks great. I wouldn't even necessarily put my LinkedIn thing, because nobody's going to like see this and then go to their computer and type in their LinkedIn. I think you're good just to put in your email address and phone number. But this is perfectly exactly what you want. It's symmetric, it's clean, it's straightforward, no frills, nothing fancy, perfect. Now this one, okay, so I wouldn't necessarily. So I know it says scene geometry, but my first reaction when I first saw this was that you're just showing ambient occlusion, and I wouldn't necessarily show this pass. I would just skip straight to like the first key light, because I actually think you kind of lose something with that one. I think overall that one, I think it works overall it works okay. I think that the lighting isn't the strongest. I actually think this next project is a better example of lighting for you. So I would put this one first. I think overall it's really nice. And again, nothing against this one. I just think that there's some, like, her eyes are still, like, she's getting super bright in this area here, but the whites of her eyes are still looking a little bit dull. Like, her eyes look almost like marbles, like they're a little bit too reflective, which is usually not the problem that we're seeing. We're seeing the teeth of her mouth there, which isn't the bottom teeth. It's accurate, and it's probably what would, I guess, really happen. No, it wouldn't. It would be a little bit darker in there, and we wouldn't see that back there. So I would watch out for that. And then this brightness is a little bit too much. And the saturation point feels a little bit high on this one too. Like, she feels like her saturation, again, on her eyes and her lips, I'm looking at the red of her lips and the blue of her eyes, feels a little bit over cranked. So I would tone that down a little bit too. But this one looks really nice. I think the richness of the coffee looks really good. The shaping on here, the reflections in the glass, it overall feels pretty nice. The one thing that I would really like is more shaping on this back wall. If you're going to go in and redo that. Usually when you see still lifes, there's a lot more of it. And actually I pointed it that way, but I think, yeah, it would be this way. Like window light coming in there and screaming down. Also, this area in here is super dark. If there's that much window light, you'd expect a little bit more bounce light up in there. But yeah, I think overall that is a stronger image. This one definitely you want to show your final version, like you want to show your version before you show the reference. And a couple things about this, because there's a few things about it that aren't working yet. Because, and again, you just replaced her head and not necessarily her neck. So a few things to look out for here that if you have an opportunity to improve. Look at her ear. Look at her ear. Now look at Sigourney Weaver's ear. Do you see that warmth in there? That little bit of translucency, that little bit of backscatter? That makes a big difference. I would add that. And then additionally, like look at the black levels inside of her mouth versus the black levels inside of Sigourney's mouth. So it's a little lifted, a little bit more fleshy. And then overall, I'm feeling a lot of deep dark contrast. Again, look at the pupil and iris of her eye. It's much darker. Same thing with like these dark values in here. Just much, it's obviously darker hair, but the dark value is much, much darker in there. And the teeth feel a little bit over cranked. And if you look inside here, the shadows don't quite feel as soft. So yeah. So I'd say about that. This one has got potential. I think we need to, it just feels like it can go brighter. Like I feel like I just want to push this light more and really really feel that bright light on there. Because it just feels a little bit too dim overall. And I think, but I do like the fill values here. I'd like to see a little bit of shaping on these blinds. Really like this, like small specular highlight we're getting on this table. The shaping going across the paper is nice. I just think we need to push that value overall in that spotlight. So this one here, again, show the final before you show anything else. Don't, show what we're building towards, because right now I don't know anything about what this project is. And my first reaction when I see this can pop in, I was like, this looks really fat. Like it looks elongated, like someone took it and stretched it. I generally think of soda cans being a little bit taller and skinnier than this. Additionally, these cans are like brushed metal, so you would see like a vertical stripe in them. So there's like a vertical kind of print in them if you look closely at it. We're not really seeing that here. The specular highlight is kind of pure, and in cans you see it be a little bit different there. And all of this is good. The one thing that I would say is, and also like the bottom of this just looks a little bit fuzzy, like a little bit out of focus. And I can also see some, and this might just be the compression, but like a little bit of stair stepping around the letters. The one thing that I would say if you're doing a project like this, or for anyone listening, I would also include a real soda can, like what you're matching to. Because the idea is that if you're matching to live action, you want it to be like an A for A replacement of the original. So you want to just like put an original, like, because there's a big space here where you could put an actual Coca-Cola can there, and then light to match that. And you can integrate them by making them almost identical by the end. It's almost like a guessing game for the audience of guessing which one is real and which one isn't. So the last thing I was gonna say about this reel is just to make sure, this is nice too, your little Arnold and all the stuff down here. That works out great. The only other thing that I would say is that if you're applying, because you kind of have two different demo reels that you have going here. You have a VFX one, which is like the head replacement and the soda can. And then you also have like a CG one, which is like these characters and the set. So I would just say if you're applying for a visual effects house to really favor the live action, matching to integration stuff versus the all CG stuff. And then if you're applying to an all CG house, just focus on the all CG stuff. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I think you've got a good start of a demo reel here. I think you have a lot to work with and some to build off of. I think you definitely should work on doing some more character work. Make that your focus going forward. And yeah, but I don't think that you're in a bad place at all. I think you have a lot to work with here. So let me go ahead and hop over. Wait, here we go. So Katerina asks, before I do this, how would you approach creating the lightning effect? I was thinking of creating a light group just for the lightning and then controlling that by animating it in Nuke with the exposure node. What would you guess? What would you suggest when there is a sudden light change in this scenario? It's a great question. And the way that you're approaching it, I think, is totally, totally right. Let's see. It's funny that this thing loads. So the way that I would approach it is what you're saying. I wouldn't try and animate it in CG, especially on the because like what you have now is good. And if you and even like if you add in a little extra bounce light, I would even add that as a separate pass and dial it in the comp. But what I would do is put an overhead light up here, maybe even 3 of them, and do them as RGB lights and just see what you get. And then what I would do is I would animate that into like with a plus node. I would animate that into the Nuke, into your composite by just like plussing that in and just timing that at being like crack. Like look at some reference. There's tons of lightning reference out there, and it'd be like crack, 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 or like something that's like bright. And then the biggest thing that you want to focus on is the idea that it's going to be a sudden exposure change. Because you're saying you're adjusting exposure, and you're totally right. Because like think about it from the camera person's perspective, they're just shooting this, and all of a sudden there's a huge influx of light. So it's gonna kind of blow out the camera a little bit, and it's gonna be like kind of brightness for like a frame or two. And I'm not exactly. I mean, I'm guessing it's a bolt of lightning, so it's gonna be pretty fast. But I'm guessing it would just be like a pop, pop, pop of light on a frame, maybe 2 frames, and then it would take like a second to kind of die off a little bit. But I would check that in the timing. But I would definitely do it as a separate pass. I would make it directional and make it from a position, and then I would animate it in Nuke, just because animating it in the original gets a little dicey, and it's just it'll be hard and cumbersome, and it'll take you a long time, just because of the rendering and stuff. But I think that it would be a good way to go. Okay, now I'm going to hop over into Photoshop, and I want to talk about one of Jordan's submissions here. So this was Jordan's, and let's see. Thank you. You're very welcome, Katerina. So this was one of Jordan's submissions last week, and he has updated it. And one of the things that we were talking about was pushing these light sources to be cool and warm to kind of get them to pop. In the previous version, they were a little bit more neutral. And I think that I actually like the way this one's heading versus the other one, but I think we can do a few things to adjust this to make it better. So I'm gonna just kind of take you through what I kind of mocked up a little while ago. So this is the original, and I'm gonna go through the next iteration. So the first thing that I did was, like, if I'm looking at this and I look at the levels, like we're missing some here on the high ends, which isn't bad because this is a pretty dark scene. But what I did was I just like started pushing this up a little bit, and what I was seeing was that I do kind of like some of the things that are happening when we push these levels a little bit higher, right? Like those pockets of light really, really start to stand out a little bit more versus this. And I think we can get some of that glow going in there. So what I did was I did that, and I pushed that, not a whole lot, but just like a little bit more. And then the other thing I was looking at, these lights are pretty super green. If I was doing something kind of like sci-fi or horror movie, I would maybe push them this green. But for what we're doing here, I think we can tone those back and desaturate those just a little bit. From there, I went ahead and added. So this is like my little trick. I'll show you this one. If you guys have been in my classes before, you know that I do this sometimes. It's like adding a little bit of diffusion. So I just select the entire image, and then I paste it. I just Control-C, Control-V that whole image, so it's exactly the same. I will then take this and do a little Gaussian blur to it. You know, like about 8 pixels on a normal resolution image. And then what you want to do is you want to screen this back over top of the original, and then you can dial in the opacity to kind of add a little bit of glow. And if you want, I mean, because truthfully what you're doing is isolating it to just the highlights. So you can go ahead and, if you want to just remove some of these darker areas, because what I'm trying to do is just add a little bit of glow to the highlight regions, and then you can kind of see that there. It's just like a little bit of softening, a little bit of diffusion on the lens, which I definitely think would help out a little bit in this one. Let's see from there. I went ahead and, oh yeah, so that's pretty much it. I just wanted to brighten that up just a little bit, desaturate some of the lights, and you can kind of see a little bit of a before and after. And I think this will actually get you in a better place in the long run, because I think there's a little bit more emotion, a little bit more drama, a little bit more like oomph in this versus the desaturated version before. Just my 2 cents. And that's that. So let me stop sharing my screen for just a second, because I'm going to go ahead and switch screens over to my iPad to do the rest of them. And while I am doing that, I will just hop into Facebook to make sure that we don't have any questions over here and we look okay on Facebook. So I'm going to keep going. Let's see. All right. Okay. Hop over here and hopefully you all can see my iPad screen now. And go ahead and stop my video just so we can kind of focus all in on this. So, okay. So now we've got these other 6 submissions that I just kind of wanted to go through. And first up, we've got Clever's, this is just an example of one of the assignments that we've got going on in the student page. I just want to point this out. He's modeling and creating this entire forest from scratch. He's got a little character in here who's going to be walking down this path. And we're just kind of starting up and getting some lighting wrapping on here. He's going to add some detail down there. But really, I think that this one, and we're going to add a little bit of foliage in there, get a little light wrap around there. But I really, really am excited about this one. This is a big project for him, and I'm very excited to see this one go. So I don't want to give too many notes, but I think this one's heading in a really fun direction. But now we've got Ubaid, Jordan, Juan, Glory, and Eric, who submitted these other ones. And Jordan, only because I spoke about your other one before, I'll save yours till the end. Ubaid, I gave you some notes online, so I'll hold off on that one. But I want to get into Juan, Glory's, and Eric's first. So jump into Juan's and pull this up too. So we've got your image and your reference imagery here. And the first thing that I want to point out is it looks like you're doing something similar to this in yours, and I think that's very, very cool. And I would like to see, by the way, I do love the personal touch you've added in there. I think that's really nice. I would like to see some of that blue and a little bit more of the color and a little bit more of the glow popping in there. I think you can push that a little bit more, and really because it's nice and you're making it stand out right in the middle. But I think you could possibly even push that a little bit more. And overall, I want to see if we can see it here in the reference. I want to see more colored glow coming from your city, right? Like if you look at some of this stuff, there's like patches of fog around the city that's just like these super bright, colorful, like glows. Here's a nice one too. And then we go back to yours. We're not quite seeing that entirely. So I would really like push these colors in here and just create some more atmospheric and some more volume that way. I think that everything else is starting to come together. There's a little bit of flatness going on back here. Like I'm missing some shaping coming down this way. And I want to see those step back into space a little bit. Because again, when we're talking about these scenes, we are talking about creating a level of black value as things step back into space. So we've got, because what we want is we want the darkest darks here, and then a little bit lighter here, and then lighter as we go back. But what we're seeing here is like this value is, let's say this is the darkest, this is 1. These are darker here, and then this is kind of lighter in the middle there. And that's creating some confusion. Let's really be heavy-handed about it and step us back into space there. I think we can actually go, just because this building here is near the foreground and we're starting to see some of the flatness and the not, kind of like the simple geometry of this, like especially because around these edges are very clean. I would throw this one a little bit more out of focus and also darken it down and just make it like a dark building here in the foreground, and that'll help us focus in back there. I know that you're kind of fly through this set, so hopefully that might help out a little bit. The other thing that I'm thinking, looking at this, is, and this might just be in the model, but it's a scale of these dots on here. They're not the same as, like, it's a different scale than those other buildings, and they feel super small to me. So I would consider maybe turning those off or just darkening those for now and really kind of focusing us in here. And if we can get some more variation in these windows too, because these are all very like pretty uniform, and then just varying those up in there. But I think all of this is working really well, and I think that you're that's starting to come together nicely. Glory, same thing here. You've got more colorful patches, but the biggest thing, there's two big things I want you to focus on with yours. Number one, and I mentioned this in the comments, was getting your aerial perspective in there, getting your atmospheric fog, getting your little bit of drop off. So we want to feel, again, same thing I mentioned in the last one, just some stepping back into space where these dark points are darkest near the foreground, and stepping back as we go into depth, because we really want to make this feel big. And then adding some like pockets of like just kind of fog, density, smoke that kind of is always like omnipresent in cities. The other thing about yours is that the interior lights of these buildings are overpowering the sun. And no matter let's see if we can find some, like, look at your reference here. So looking at like this reference, what we're seeing is the sun overtakes these buildings, right? Even, there we go. Same thing here, same thing here. Even the same thing here. And this is like after the sun's kind of setting. So what I think is that looking at this one here, especially in this one here, when the sun is back behind the city, what ends up happening is the buildings themselves become much more silhouetted, and you don't necessarily see as many of the individual lights. So for you, if you want to go down this way, I think a really cool thing would be to tone down the interior lights that we're seeing in like all these buildings, and really make it about the sun setting behind them, the shape, the rim, the silhouette, stepping back into space with some fog, and really kind of selling that. The other thing is and just something to be aware of, is this camera angle. We're like super high up in the buildings, which will make the city feel a little bit smaller. You notice in the reference too, like these down here and this one are all like in the city, right? Like, are from like a person's perspective. So I would consider kind of getting down there into the city itself. Eric? So good start here as well. I think that so a few things. Number one, I'm not sold on these purple lights in the foreground as being like a light source for something within there. Like, I'm not quite sure where those are coming from. They just seem like they're kind of arbitrarily placed. So what I would do is I would put, I would either model in or put something in there that's emitting this magenta light, because I think it's actually working really, really strongly to draw the eye down here. I just want to see more evidence of why it's there. And then if this is here, I would like to balance that. I like this color combined with this. I think that's a nice like combination. So I would put more of this color like pocketed around the city a little bit. And additionally, similar to the other ones, just stepping up the gray values, which we're stepping back into space, just to get a little bit more depth to the image. And then in the opposite way that Glory's had a rear lighting that would make that would kind of drown out the window lights, I think that we can push the value of your window lights back in here a little bit more and make them a little bit stronger. Again, if Let's go back to Juan's reference imagery. So like, look how bright these are in these night settings. They're like really, really glowing. They're have a lot of atmosphere around them. And I think that they could really, like this one especially, like think of something like this when you're building yours, and really kind of push those values so they're not just like little squares that are popping around back here. And then do your best to try and add variation to their color, because they all are a little bit consistent at this point. And the nice thing, the beautiful part of, and I did this too, I've done this in night scenes that I'm not 100% proud of. So if you have a locked off camera or a very still camera, you can literally just go into your composite or Photoshop or whatever, and like just draw. You can just isolate different ones with rotos and just shift the color around a little bit to get some more variation back there. I actually did it in a film. I won't mention which one or where I was when I did it, but I had a movie where I had a vista like this, and there was actually a technical problem where we couldn't get like the top 10 floors of the building. We couldn't get the lights to turn on. So I was like, it was a locked off shot. So I was like, I'll fix it in the comp. And so I just took a bunch of photos of family members and shrunk them down to like 4 pixels by 4 pixels. And I stuck them in the windows, and I just made them kind of glow and be different colors, just so there's some variation in there. So there is a shot in a film that I worked on that has a bunch of pictures of my family in it that nobody will ever, ever, ever know. So please don't tell my bosses that, because they would be mad at me. Let's see. And then, okay, so we got Kleber, Jordan, Juan. Okay, so I want to jump into Ubaid's and Jordan. So Ubaid created this in Unreal. Just show the this is the reference image here. So when I was looking at the reference, the biggest things that I was picking up on was like all of the blue light with these like little pockets of like green kind of light on there. And then also the very large swaths of light kind of just, I kept saying, because it was like kind of flattening out the tops of those trees, just kind of like, it felt like the light was being draped on top of them. Like there was pretty heavy and just being laid down on top of them. So there, across there, and then like little pockets of light in the water down here, which are pretty cool. Now, when I looked at Ubaid, who was very skilled, like Ubaid is very good at this Unreal and real-time lighting. But one of the things that I noticed was we're just totally missing the coolness of the sky. That's really kind of selling all of that light down there. And the other thing too was I'm not getting that draping of moonlight onto the trees here. I could see it a little bit there, but like I really want to see this and this and this and this and this, and like in all of the various shots. I think that like this is working out pretty well. The glow, I would maybe like to see the edge a little bit more. I think they're a little bit soft. And if it was me, I would soften these shadows just a touch more, but it kind of matches the reference, so that's fine. But again, same thing, just gets more on the trees here. And, oh, and the other thing, like this is something to watch out for when you are doing something like this. So we've got the shaders or like the little particle emitters on this fire. So their color doesn't exactly match the color that's going on around here. These feel like more yellow orange. This feels more magenta red. So whenever and you can kind of see what's going on. Excuse me. You can see that somebody has that he has a shader there, and then a light emitting on the surrounding. And you just kind of want to make sure that those are matching up. But the fall off is good. I would like to see this light kind of hit little bits in here a little bit more, the way it's hitting there. But I think that's kind of bonus points at this point. And yeah, so that's pretty much it with Ubaid. So again, the biggest things to match this reference would be find those drapes of light, like really, really get some strong key light on the surrounding trees. And this is something else I just noticed is like the amount of silhouetting happening here in the foreground. Make sure you're getting those darker shapes in the foreground as well. But really good start and really nice work. So Jordan, last one here. So I think this is making good progress. This is one of our lighting challenge scenes, if you guys don't know. And a few things that you could do to improve upon. Number one, I would make more of a gradient here on the sky. I would, so I'm seeing this kind of bright, but like, I don't want to see this or these in here. I kind of want all of this to be like a glowy, bright, light bulby candle, kind of just like a really bright point there. I think what you've got going on here with the vignetting is working really nice. The one thing is these guys, you don't want to see this kind of dark line in them. And it might be a ray tracing thing, like as the ray's kind of bouncing around, it dies, and we're missing some of that, but I would just watch out for that. And then this lighthouse, I would just try and get some more light shaping around there. And then if this is kind of what I like to say, it's like falling between being on and being off. So I would either make this glow a little bit more or just kind of shut off the value. And for me, I think I would just kind of shut it off because it's like daytime. You've got some, maybe get some a little bit more shaping on that whale there. And then I would look into, and this might break the style, but I would look into just creating a little bit of blur on these edges going along there. But overall, I think this is looking really good. Maybe a little depth of field in here in the extreme foreground too. Just a little bit out of focus would help. I'm trying to think. That's about it. Maybe desaturate and brighten Santa's head up a little bit more. Just so those whites are really popping as whites. Whites are tough, man. Whenever you're lighting something, whites can be really, really difficult. In that they don't, if you leave them a little bit too dark, they're gonna look dirty. Like looking at all these, like the lighting variation between all these whites back here is very similar, but like look at how all of them are reading. They're reading very differently. So just something to be aware of and something to be very careful with there. So yeah, so that is our video critique for the day. Oh, you have a reference of on my new post. Oh, let's check that out real quick while we've got everyone here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, you do have reference on here. Okay, let me go ahead and show this. Sorry, Juan. I always do that too, I think. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and share this real quick. All right. So yeah, okay, cool. So this is a really nice color palette that you're working with here. Yeah, and it's just, so the biggest things for you, yeah, that's nice. Sorry, I grabbed your old reference there. So again, I would really focus in on the black points and really make sure that they're stepping back into space. I do like the color scheme that you're building here. I just think, I'm just looking at right here because I really want to focus in on this. Maybe clearing this building out of the way a little bit would help. And then just like, because it would really like allow us to focus in right there. Yeah, looking back. I just want to see that a little bit more saturated too. So maybe we can bring in like this color, but make it brighter. Like make it like an illuminated version of that. And I think that would help out a lot. But yeah, same things apply with just the stepping it back into space. And I like the new color scheme. There's some, yeah, okay, sorry. Now I'm just staring at it. I think this looks pretty good. I want to see less of this warm light in here, and I really want to play up because I really like these green values, these cooler values that you've got going on. And you can see it here in this one. There's just like one building there that has that pocket of warmth just to balance it just a little bit. But I like the way that these are 95% this color and like a much smaller amount this one. So I think you can shift it more towards that ratio as well. All right. So Thank you guys very much. If anybody has any questions, definitely feel free to. Oh, you're very welcome, Juan. And your work is, you're doing great work. So just keep up what you're doing. So thank you all very much. I'm going to just double check here on Facebook, make sure we don't have any questions over here. But yeah, keep going, guys. Keep lighting, keep posting this stuff. So next week we'll have Monday. I think I got a request to do like a quick intro, like get into Nuke in 30 minutes. So I will do that. Wednesday, we're going to interview Francesco, who's a lighter at DreamWorks. And then next Friday, we'll do some more critiquing. But I just want to make sure that everyone's staying safe out there. Be safe, be healthy, take care of yourselves. We are here, Jasmine and I are here to help you guys in whatever you need. So make sure you're reaching out to us if you have any questions or if you need any support during this tough time. And we'll be happy to work with all of you. So get out there, keep going, keep lighting. You guys are doing amazing work, and we'll see you all soon. Happy lighting, everyone.